Well, I am here with a man I've wanted to speak to you for a very long time. I saw his face and I said, I must ask you a question. Mr. Mark O'Connell, author of Catching Bullets, a very, very much regular face in the Bond community. We have not spoken face to face before, but we've exchanged many messages. How are you doing, Mark?
I am good. Hello. Welcome to leafy Surrey. Welcome to England. It misses you, but don't come back. Stay where you are.
And I believe, am I popping your cherry in your new Bond room?
I beg your pardon. Yes, you are slightly. I realised I have done some other stuff here. It's not quite fully worked out yet. Need a bit more Ken Adam at the moment. But yes, this is my first interview where I'm a guest. So yeah, my inaugural moment. You're cutting my cyber ribbon here.
Oh, well, I am very flattered to have that opportunity. And Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me. I'll start off by saying I read your book, Catching Bullets, which I really, really enjoyed. And I mentioned it before, but there's one section in it which was just magical to me, which is when you were talking about being in W.H. Smith's in Winchester during the 80s. And I was like, oh my God, I lived in Winchester in the 80s. And my biggest excitement every week was going to W.H. Smith's to look through all the books. And I was big into Doctor Who then. And I was like, there was a chance when you were reminiscing about that. I was just the other side of the partition. And it was great. I really enjoyed your book because it was your experience watching all these movies when you were the same age as me and stuff like that. And then there was just that moment of connection. So, yeah, I've always felt that right.
Yeah, no, I'm exactly the same. I still can't go past the Smiths without just having a check just in case. I mean, I don't buy many print magazines anymore, but I will always just nip in just in case. It was quite a Aladdin's cave. It was almost, people don't know this, people who are under sort of 90, they don't understand how places like Smith's, which was a newsagent magazine store for non-UK viewers, it was like the internet. It was the only contact and world you had to find out about things, be it TV listings or future films. You know, to see a film poster inside a magazine was had the same thrill as if we suddenly see a teaser poster for a Bond or a Star Wars now. So yeah, it's but yeah, I still have this compulsion. I just have to slightly check and see what the movie mags are like every Smith's I walk past.
Yeah, I remember we used to go every week to get the Radio Times and the TV Times, because you had to get both, because the Radio Times had BBC One and BBC Two listings, and TV Times had ITV and Channel 4. Like, what a world! Now we can just look at our phone, and there we go.
Yes, the little things. Yes, yeah.
So, I mean, most people in the Bond community are familiar with you, but for those who aren't, you have a very, very special connection to James Bond, which you wrote about so beautifully in Catching Bullets. So
I'm a Roger Moore fan. You're right. Yeah, I came to Bond. There was a sort of family link. Bond was in my family, and I've said this so many times before, but Bond was in my family before I was, because my grandfather was a chauffeur, driver, babysitter, house sitter, fixer. He would do anything, and his boss was a guy called Cubby Broccoli, and he was with Cubby just before Bond. In fact, he was there at the tail end of the Warwick film years in the late 50s, and he was there for some bad times for Cubby, but also some renewal and better times. So yeah, my grandfather was always working on the Bond films behind the scenes with the Broccoli's and particularly Eon's offices which was then South Audley Street in London. And yeah, so I got into Bond. I was dragged kicking and screaming to see Octopus at age 7, and I really wanted to see Return of the Jedi again. And I wasn't allowed. I had quite the meltdown in the Guildford Odeon foyer. I remember the turnstiles, kicking off in the turnstiles. I hope there's turnstiles. They haven't made that up. And my fandom went from there, and then I would get fed little bits from Cubby's office, a bit of news, a bit of titles. And I was, even as a kid, I wasn't allowed to say what the title of the next Bond film is. And this is pre-internet as well, so you had to be extra careful. But I kept my spy-like duties very close to my chest and didn't tell anyone. So yeah, and then I just became a Bond fan. I did what anyone does. I experienced the films out of order. I'm not old enough to have watched them in order, but I kind of find it must have been a wild ride for those that have, and hopefully there's still many people here who've seen them in order as they came out. But I saw them not in order. I saw them when ITV would deem to show Diamonds Are Forever on a bank holiday Monday, which was like the ABC Sunday night movie. It was a big thing, and it would be in the TV Times, and it would be an important felt tips circling moment where you wanted to catch Roger Moore in For Your Eyes Only. So I then did a book, Catching Bullets, which was, it's kind of, I call it a memoir through cinema, which is what it was. And it was reevaluating the Bond films. You know, we all know why they're good, but why they're good? Why is Goldfinger important? Why is Tomorrow Never Dies also important? And it's kind of just grown from there. I've sort of, the Bond world has been good to me ever since. And I'm enjoying the ride. No plans to park up just yet.
No, and I mean, the interesting thing about you is like Bond is not your entire personality. Like, you are Mark O'Connell. You're a very accomplished writer, and you've written wonderful articles about a ton of other stuff. But you just have this unique viewpoint into Bond that I think we all enjoy. And I loved with Catching Bullets, you're talking about you know, examining the movies, but also the movies and how they helped you see the world as you were developing into a human being. And again, it resonated with me. The first movie I saw was the Man with the Golden Gun, which many people say is not one of the best James Bond movies. It's one of my favorite James Bond movies because, you know, I saw perhaps the opposite for you, but I saw Britt Eklund in a bikini, and I was like, "Oh, I guess I'm heterosexual." And that was like at 7 or 8 years old.
I saw Roger Moore in a crocodile outfit and thought, "What am I?" Yeah.
But I love that because it really resonated with me to see these movies that have been so important throughout my life and things, and then to read that it resonated with me, and I enjoyed that. And it's like, I almost feel, you know, you and I, we've never met face to face, and this is the first time we're chatting, but like I feel almost like we've got a secret connection.
Yes, well, we're bonding through Bond, and I find that's quite a thing. I'm sure other film franchises and other fans of, you know, football teams and all of that. Here I said football teams without a clue about what football teams are. But yeah, I'm sure that you do bond through Bond, and it's a lovely thing. I've made friends, cyber friends, you know, who we suddenly realize, how did we first get to know each other? And then suddenly we're meeting up in LA or throughout the world, and I like it for that. So it's a shorthand. It's a little quiet passport. If you like Bond, I might like you. So yeah, it's been a good opener, especially during social media years. It's, whilst there's a lot of bad usage of social media and moany, angry usage of social media, I do think social media away from cinema and away from pop culture is a real vital way of just keeping in touch with people. I talk to friends in Sydney and San Francisco more than I perhaps talk to my neighbor opposite here.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point when it comes to social media, especially like recently. One of the things I think that's distinctive about you is you are an overwhelmingly positive appearance on the internet. It's like you are never the one bitching and moaning about stuff. You're always seem positive. You're going to these places, but also everything you bring to it is always offbeat, which I really like. You know, you come up with these wonderful like memes, and you get two completely separate ideas and like squish them together and then make a post about it. And I'm like, I don't know. There's something very unique and interesting about that. Where does that come from? Are you just like an offbeat person, or?
Yeah, maybe I'm an offbeat person. I'm an offbeat Nick, perhaps. I actually think, you know, and I do this with my writing. I put a bit of quality into it, put a bit of time into it. You know, I love that people can post a picture of Jane Seymour and it gets massive popularity, but that wasn't my photo. I wasn't there. I like to try and bring some now insight into things. The positivity I get, it's weird. People's negative about me is, you're always too positive. And I'm like, well, first off, if you came to the pub and started talking about British politics, you'd see a very different side of me. But I just think I get going back to the soccer team analogy. I don't understand why some people just like to be so angry and vocally angry about something they purport to love. You know, Bond to me is my Friday night. It's my Chinese takeaway. It's my bottle of wine. It's my box of chocolates. It's my happy place. Maybe I don't get so passionate about it, and I do understand that people's passions. But I think what I try and do, I don't try and do it all the time, but I try and just bring in a bit of reality and sanity. You know, there's a realism to why some things happen. There's a reality why we haven't got, you know, the new Bond announced and the new film mentioned and headlines. There's sort of industry realism about it, which a lot of people don't get, and that's fine. So I try and I find actually, who knew, truth and honesty is actually quite positive if you do it the right way.
Yeah, I definitely, you broaden my perspective on things with this. 007 Road to a Million, for example. There are lots of Bond fans who are not positive about it at all. However, when you spoke, you seem enthusiastic about it, and we'll talk about that. But also the way you did a wonderful post on Twitter, I think, about explaining, like, this isn't what we're getting you. This is just a side piece. This is something else that's going on to embrace all of the new opportunities that are out there in social media and streaming services and stuff like that. So people like me, and I'm trying not to be the moaning muddle of it. It's like, don't focus on the moaning and being unhappy with it. This is something that exists, and some people love it, and maybe it's not for you, but that's absolutely fine.
Yeah. Personally, I'd rather get angry and annoyed and vocal about what's going on in the real world. Politics. Britain's not a happy place right now for all sorts of reasons. It seems to be getting more interesting or curious as the days go on. But I just don't see the need to be negative about things I can't change. And yes, we'll talk about Road to a Million down the road maybe, but it's that as a project is not. It's when a creator like Eon Productions or as I call it, the House of Bond, when they do something, it's not a cake. If they give us a slice of Road to a Million, it doesn't mean the slice of Bond 26 is going to be smaller or more delayed. That's not how art works. And the producers produce, creators create. I would be more concerned that a company like Eon Productions is not being a production company in between Bond than when it is. So yeah, it's a funny one. It's fandom. It's not just Bond fans. And it also ebbs and flows. Sometimes Star Wars fans can be quite toxic. Doctor Who fans can be quite angry. I'm always getting told, "Oh, Bond fans are nothing compared to those fans." I'm like, right, well, that's a soccer match I won't be going to.
And that's I appreciated that perspective on it, and it made me like tone down but I mean, saying that, let's Road to a Million, that's the first time I've seen like some real dissent in the Bond community and people not being particularly happy.
Really? That's the first time? Oh, you need to dig deeper. Yeah.
But I was going to ask you, so be genuine 100%. Is this aside from the Bond connection, is this a show you'd like to enjoy it? Tell me your honest thoughts.
I like it. I think it's fun. It's a Bond adjunct. It's a sidebar. As I say, it existing hasn't stopped, slowed, or jeopardized the future Bond film or future Bond actor being settled upon. It was actually a production that was mooted and started about 4 years ago, before the Amazon MGM Studios deal that obviously put Bond under its wing. So and it's also a company called 72 Films, who are a really interesting TV documentary and reality production house who do good things. They've got I believe they've got a JFK documentary coming up because it's the 60th anniversary of his assassination very soon, in a week or two, and they've got that on National Geographic. So they're in a good place. So I can see why people don't like it. I also think there's a little bit of snobbery. People see reality TV. I don't watch Love Island or Big Brother, but those are people that might be watching Strictly or MasterChef, which are also reality shows. And reality TV is where it's at. For good or bad. I mean, I'm going to give a very bad example, but reality TV gave us at least one president. The movies gave us Reagan. Reality TV gave us Trump. But go figure. I really like the show. I mean, it looks beautiful. Everyone might agree on that. I liked it because it wasn't full of Bond fans. It had some Bond references. I like the fact that two brothers from South London go into a lockup in the Highlands and don't really know that that's Auric Goldfinger's car. I kind of find that more interesting than if it was me or you going, "Oh my God, it's the Lotus. Oh, let me take a photo." And and they're in locations. And if Bond fans are in locations, we'd spend about half an hour trying to line up the shots to match the film frame. Whereas these guys and girls are just going through it. And I think it's been really well cast as well. Barbara Broccoli, who's got one of the cleverest canny eyes when it comes to casting and selecting creatives. You can see that fingerprint on it. It's real people. We're not sort of slightly blingy, tacky wannabes who are doing things on camera for likes and social media attention. There's a reality to it. I mean, it's not doing this, but there was a very slight 3% echo of Seven Up, which was a big documentary series that Michael Apted did in the 60s. It's still going on, and it was a real British document of British society and cross-section of it. I'm
Was
not
that one
saying
where they caught up with people every 7 years?
every 7 years. So I've said
Yeah.
this is very, very extremely loosely. This is 007 Up, where we have real people, and I'm not saying it's as important and as sort of sociologically necessary as 7 Up has been, but I really like the characters. That's me saying I like the characters. They were real people. So yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. And also the flip of it is, and I get this, I'm in my 40s as well. People are scared of new things. I get that, but Bond needs new things. People were worried when, oh my God, Amazon have bought up Bond. And I went, well, Amazon actually been in the production business as long as Netflix has, and Netflix is doing all right. And guess what? Amazon Studios is doing all right. It's winning Oscars. It's out there. And the head of Amazon Studios, Jennifer Salke, was at the recent London launch of 007 Road to a Million, and she was proud of this. And what I think the deal with Amazon is it's bringing Bond to new tech. I've always thought for about 10 years, Bond needs an older tech brother to move forward. And I've got a couple of godsons. They love No Time to Die, and they kind of wonder what other Bond films should they watch. And then I said, well, they're all on ITV4 at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday. And they said, are they not on Amazon? This was pre-Amazon deal. And I went, no, not yet. Now everyone go, well, why pander to kids? But it's important. There's a big generation of people that have only know about Bond from seeing spinning DB5s on their ad walls on their phones. So if this just raised a little different awareness, I think it's a really good thing.
I think that, and you're right about it being absolutely beautiful. I think that was the other thing. It's like, okay, I'm not into reality shows, and I can get, why are they making this reality show, or they should be making new Bond film? But when I watched it from the first opening minutes, the drone shots of the Scottish Highlands and that really familiar music that just like stirs something up inside, and yeah, there a lot of serious time, attention, and effort and skill went into making this show, and I think it's very easy for me to be cynical about it, but you can't really deny that. Like, the cinematography was amazing. You got David Arnold writing a new track for it. Like, at the end of the day, all the people who worked in it are very proud of what they worked on, and it's probably a pain to have some middle-aged bloke being like, oh, well, this isn't what I wanted.
No, I mean, I get the criticisms. There's a little disconnect for me. I don't know, I've said it already. The whole Brian Cox stuff is great, but it feels there's a disconnect between him and the contestants. But then possibly that's why it works, and it's doing really well. I think I checked a couple of days ago, and it was #1 in 25 countries, and it was in the top 3 in 25% of the world. Whilst that's only Amazon Prime viewers, I think that those sort of figures matter. So it's just doing good things, and it's not, as I say, it's not just because it exists doesn't mean Bond 26 is going to exist a bit less. That's not how it works. The whole Bond 26, which maybe we'll talk about, but that's a different mountain to climb. These guys are climbing mountains with drone cameras, but the House of Bond are really looking up and going, okay, we have to do this for the 7th time and navigate this mountain completely differently all over again.
Yeah, and actually that is quite an intimidating thing, I have to admit. It's all very well to say start a new one, but what do you do? How do you make it new? Like Daniel Craig coming in with Casino Royale, and that was all Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, wasn't it? Yeah. They made something new and exciting, and Bond was relevant, and then how do you do that again?
You take the leap of faith. You jump with that Union Jack parachute off the Canadian mountain and just hope it works, and that one of the skis doesn't maybe slice through and cause some havoc. I'm good on metaphors today. I get the impatience. I want a new Bond film. I want a new Bond film every 3 weeks, but that's not how it works. We can't have a Bond film every year or 2 years like the 60s, because the world is different. Do we say, I want a car and my dinner cooked like we used to in the 60s? No, God no. So why do we want that? You don't confuse frequency for context. And back in the 60s, it was a completely different production world. It was also a very different distribution and consumption world. There were way more cinemas and way less films. So Bond, it was easier to get those wheels moving. But I think they, like you say, they've got a massive challenge to. I think it's the same. It's equally the same as following Connery. And,
Yeah.
I mean, are we going to have this weird one film with another actor, and then we'll go back to Daniel Craig? That'll set X Twitter on fire.
Oh my God.
Even more on fire than it is already. But they've got, and Barbara Broccoli says this, they've got to decide where is the sense of adventure now? Where is the sense of danger? We've sadly got a lot of dangerous pockets and elements in the world, perhaps way more than during the latter part of the Brosnan era, where they were like, oh, where's the villainy now? We've sadly got lots of villainous, horrible elements in our world, so there's a lot to tap into there. But it's also what sense of masculinity, what sense of hero do we have? They can easily just do what they possibly did after Yelling Twice and cast a Connery light, but I don't think we're going to get a Daniel Craig light. I think we'll probably get a very British actor, but I don't think we will get someone that's a bit Daniel Craigy. It doesn't make sense. I think we might get someone younger because we need to move forward. I do think we might have despite the wait now and the sort of headlines of it's taking too long. I do think once that Thunderball is up and rolling, I do think we will get perhaps a quicker frequency of films. I mean, this something the Road to a Million, the prize pot was 9 million, let alone the budget, and everyone's going, well, that could have been spent on Bond. This is Amazon, all right? They have more money than Jesus. I don't know. I don't know if Jesus was a rich man, but I don't think so. But it's fine. And personally, I can't wait. And just think about this: Amazon, we interact with them as a provider of what they provide physically as well with parcels. Imagine if Bond 26 or the next Bond title logo is on every cardboard box delivered to every front door.
Yeah,
that's a good thing. That's a big thing. That's better than I don't know, Marvel's 18 million Twitter followers. So they've got to kind of think within that. I think it's a real different era, and they're fiercely protective, rightly so. And I think it will take time. It takes time to settle on a director and an idea, let alone settle on an actor that might take you to 4, 5, 7 films.
And I think what you said, well, first of all, I just want to say, I did catch where you said to get that Thunderball rolling. And I love the way you throw those in there. And I just want to know that people appreciate that and recognize that. That was
They should.
But you also said something great about, the masculinity defining, because you've got to think of like the concept and what it says. And like when Daniel Craig brought in, it was like, this is going to be a much rawer, grittier, emotionally grounded Bond, and he falls in love and he feels this age, which they never really did in the previous movies. And that was, I think, very relevant to where masculinity was in like 2010. And where are men now? Because I think a lot of us as men, we gravitate towards James Bond because it's almost like that's a role model, a masculine role model that we can look at and is relevant and resonates with us. But where do we go next with that?
Yes, yeah. I as a kid, when I first saw Octopussy, June '83, I was 7 years old, and me and my pals wanted to be Roger Moore. I remember when A View to a Kill came out, we were running around the cinema and the street outside like we were in Paris, and just being sort of 8-year-olds being stupid. But I don't see that with Bond now. I mean, I'd be worried if a 7-year-old was racing down the street pretending to be Daniel Craig from No Time to Die. But so yes, we need to get those younger kids involved, but we just need to. I think the franchise. I think it will go a bit younger because it kind of has to. But right now, Bond, maybe in the last 10 years, there seems to be with the DB5, the double tufted leather door, London, old London. Sam Mendes brought it in, particularly in Skyfall. I call it the sort of mahogany London. That wasn't so mahogany London when Goldfinger came out. Goldfinger was kind of a lot more. Goldfinger at the time was like the Beatles, it was like the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Whereas, would you say that No Time to Die or Skyfall was like Harry Styles? No, this isn't going where I think it should. But it's do they? I'm not saying they're going to make Bond, some teenager living in his bedroom looking at TikTok films. That's not actually going to happen. But there's a real every time you think about it, or I think about it, it's like, oh my god, how do you move it forward? yes, get a good actor. There's certain actors out there that I think could be perfect and brilliant, but yeah, it's just, a friend was saying actually just yesterday, we were messaging each other, and he made a really good point. Martin Sterling, I'll give him a name check. He's a good Bond, wrote a great Bond book in the 80s. He said that possibly Bond is at its most crucial junction ever, because we all think, oh, we went from Connery to Moore. We didn't. We had Lazenby in between and Connery back again. It was almost like a transition process. But now they've got to really go, like, who next? And it's more than just, oh, he'll do. He looks good in a tuxedo, which is never how Eon cast. All these names and these Sunday night TV totty, as I call it. Oh, it's Aidan Turner. Oh, it's James Norton. No, it's not. That's just Sunday night drama PR people doing their work. But I don't envy them. I don't envy them.
No, I mean, one of the things that Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson did so well is reinventing Bond twice. And I think the problem is, if you just got Henry Cavill in there and you went through, painting by numbers, okay, you've got the cold open, you've got the meeting with M, you've got the Q briefing scene, you've got this. The problem is, because Bond defined a genre that has been parodied and copied and emulated so much, if you just follow that formula without bringing a new spin to it, then it's almost going to be derivative of the things that are derivative of the original article.
Yeah, I think that's where we will have, it all rests on one actor's shoulders more than ever. I keep saying that, it's more than ever, but it's I mean, there are actors out there. I think that I always think who the next Bond will be someone none of us thought of, not one bookie or headline thought, because Daniel Craig was not, until he was kind of slightly approached and privately inked and said yes. Daniel Craig was not on any bookies lists like all the names we have now. But I almost think it might be unknown. It'll be someone we'd know, but I think it could almost be a lesser known person for lots of reasons. One being money, just to keep it a little hemmed in. I mean, as we've all learned this year, the whole idea of a big blockbuster movie that's, what we had this year, Mission Impossible and Last Crusade, Dial of Destiny. Those two films should have been dead certs, and they're not. And the whole entertainment industry, again, is how we consume our films and TV, is still shifting and evolving. That's something else that Bond has to work out. Yes, Bond will remain, touch wood, a theatrical event, but that's what Dial of Destiny and Mission Impossible 7.5 thought it would do. And so it's like, personally, I think these movies are getting far too expensive versus what we get on the screen. Now, if other people's money is there for it, fine. But then the whole point of profit gets a little clouded. Although there's this other thing as well. Everyone reads sort of box office stats online and becomes, sort of Forbes experts on profit and movie hits, and that the whole movie industry is ever complicated with profit and margins and all of that. But yeah, Bond's got. I'd be cautious being, if I was Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson and the other producers as well going forward, oh, Dial of Destiny did its thing, and it wasn't strictly COVID as well. That it was slightly there before. COVID's done a number on the arts, as we know. Yeah. But then I'm going to very packed movie houses to see all sorts of films. I'm kind of looking around going, thank God there's people here. Thank God. Yeah.
I took my kids to see Five Nights at Freddy's, which they were obsessed with as a video game, and it had a budget of 20 million, and I think it's already made 170 million. And it shows like the concept and having something really solid is more important than the budget. And you're right. If you have a $300 million film, then it's basically playing Russian roulette every time you release it. Will it succeed? Will it sink your studio?
Yeah, and also finding little things like finding studio space. UK studios are doing really well, but they're also close to capacity. There's a inquiry going on right now where I think it's Warner Brothers are trying to expand Leavesden Studios, which links back to Bond, because that was the disused factory warehouse that Eon bought and converted because there was no space at the time at Pinewood. I think First Night taken over a bit and a few other productions. So Leavesden was adapted into a movie production facility, and then the Harry Potters have done very well there. I was reading just recently that Barbie has made 80 million for the UK economy, and that was Leavesden. I was thinking, my God, Bond is everywhere. There's the DNA of Bond is in the Barbie movie. But that all has to be thought about. Also, will there be studio space? Pinewood's expanded, but it's expanded because Netflix and Disney and all the streamers are getting their claws into it. We may, this is just me speculating, we may end up Bond could be shot abroad again. I'm sure they won't totally do that, but so yeah, it's like, what free space have we got, as well as what actor we're going to have, who can write the script. It's, but the more I think about it, I'm getting quite nervous for them.
I know. People don't appreciate that. I think people don't appreciate what a burden of responsibility they have, and especially now with social media and the eyes of the entire world, and anybody can like rant and rave and make a YouTube video, and I think one of the negative things about that is with movies. There's a new movie coming out, and lots of people like torpedo it on social media before it even comes out. The Marvels, I have to admit, I was kind of excited about seeing the Marvels, and everyone's like, oh, it's terrible, it's garbage, and it's doing badly at the box office. And when you see that all the time on social media, it makes you less enthusiastic about going to see a movie. So maybe that movie doesn't get the chance that it should have.
Oh, I know. I never tell anyone to not watch something. I will catch the Marvels, I'm sure. I've seen all the Marvel movies more or less when they come out, just because it's easier to watch those films than to criticize them, and they are important. But there is a thing. I think it's actually a thing in life anyway. There's a real, it's an unpleasant side of what social media does, and there should be sometimes a bit more filtering of opinion, and also filtering of facts, or better facts. People, it's an echo chamber. So suddenly, a black British woman being cast in the Bond film becomes a woke problem. I'm like, I've had to say to people, I'm sorry, a woman being cast in the film is a problem for you. So suddenly these films, and you can see it. Dial of Destiny was woke. Why? Because it had a woman in it who's written screenplays for other films. Well, that's happened in other pieces of cinema. So there's that to battle, but actually none of that matters. We see a lot of it as Bond fans online, and we see a lot of angry people kicking off and throwing their DB5 toys out of their prams, but it doesn't actually affect it. What affects it is, but Bond fans don't make the revenue for Bond movies. Star Wars fans don't make the revenue for Star Wars movies. The man on the street does. The woman on the street does. The people. I showed my mum a couple of episodes at the weekend of Road to a Million, and she said, "What is this?" And she doesn't do Prime or anything that's not BBC One, and she was transfixed. And I thought, that's interesting. That's So going back to Road to a Million, it's appealing to not the Bond fans. The Bond fans can get loads from it, but that's not its point. It didn't want to be a Bond fan show, because I personally don't want to see Bond fans titting about Matera, like I say, doing their location shots and trying to wear the same suit and showing their Omega or Omega-esque watches. I think that would be my idea.
I would be insufferable. I'd be like, no, screw the $1 million. I want to take a picture here on the same bridge that Daniel. Yeah, I would be insufferable. So I can when you said that, I could see it in my head, and I can understand now why they didn't pick Bond fans. You're right. That would be because then it would be a different show entirely.
Yeah, and if you're someone that's entitlement is so warped that you find that affront to you, and you need to go online and tell the world why that's a problem, then fine, do that. But it doesn't get listened to. I think there's a big, very deep here, aren't we? But which is a good thing. I don't think online reaction to things has quite the effect a lot of people think. Just because we all have our social media accounts doesn't mean we have a seat on the boardroom at Paramount or Lucasfilm or Warner Brothers. It's not how it works. Yes, online fever can kill a film and can kill a response to it, but or taint it. But I've yet to meet one creator or even be one where, what will they think online if we cast that person? It's not how it works. It never has been. Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm one of those people, and I was kind of cynical and negative about it, and then it left. Afterwards, I kind of felt quite almost left a bad taste in my mouth. I was like, that's not the kind of person I want to be. It's like negative about things.
Yeah, we can be critical and evaluate, but we don't have to just pull apart. I always think it's more important to build than burn, and sometimes there's a lot of burning. And then when we have production gaps, it's the same as. It's going to be 6 years again, like it was between License to Kill and Goldeneye. Well, that was a completely different context. It was a completely cinema is different to how it was in '89. Cinema is different to how it was in 2019. So just go with it, folks. And if I'm seeing 007 on buses and bus stops right now because of the Amazon show, I'm like, that's all right, isn't it? That's a good thing. That my team is being, people got their posters of my team up in their windows, so to speak.
Yeah, I get asked so many times because I'm British living in America, what's your favorite football team? And it's like, I couldn't give a shit about football. I really couldn't. So you're right. It's like, this is my team.
Yeah, exactly. And we all will swear from the stands and get too drunk and wear our NPL scarves and do all that. So I'm really, I keep proving I'm not a football person here.
Well, now online is a huge thing, and you're right. There's so much going on online, but also one of the delights of this is face-to-face stuff, of which you are a very common face. And so, tell me about the
very common face. I like that. Yeah, common. Yeah.
Actually, no, it's a very uncommon face, actually. But tell, like, the things have been going. Cue the music, and you were there at the premiere of Road to a Million.
Yes.
So tell me, where has Mark been recently, and who have you met, and what have you been up to, and what are the highlights?
I went to the Road to a Million launch at Battersea Power Station, which is the first time I've been to what was always a Battersea Power Station. I was quite glad to see it, actually. They've done a beautiful renovation in there. And one of the things I picked up on there is it wasn't a roll call of Bond fans. I was actually there because I'm Bond press. I'm not there as a Bond fan. I'm never at something because I'm a Bond fan. That's not how it works. But I was looking around, and there was the influencer word is heavily maligned, and rightly so. I'm not an influencer, and I get tired of the influencers, as I call them, because they're everywhere. Not the Bond ones, but just everywhere. But it was full of. I was looking them up, going, oh, that's why he's here. He's got 1 million followers, and that's why it's here. And it's PR, and it was full of young people. The Road to a Million thing, and it was fun, and it was celebratory of Bond, and it was nice. It was interesting to observe from the sides. I also went to Roger Moore's auction.
Yes, I saw the pictures of that
launch thing there. Bit of a controversial auction, but I went for actually a reason that I'll keep quiet for maybe a while longer. But I wasn't just there because I was a Bond voice or advocate. And I was there first and foremost because I'm a big Roger fan, and it was interesting to see. Even just to see what sort of books he had, and some of the dedications. I was looking at some books on the shelf, and we were able to slightly, quietly, carefully touch them and open them, and there was dedications from different big names to Roger. I was like, oh, this is interesting. So that was good fun. That was and various Bond people there. Partly because it was a family connection. That's something I think we forget when people. We're talking about the Roger Moore thing. It was his family, and it was their choice, for good or bad. Their choice was to sell things on. And suddenly I saw there was other people there from the Bond film world, and I went, yes, they're actually family, they're friends, and this is important for that reason. About other Bond things, stuff coming up. I'm going just as because he's a friend and another friend's invited me. But David Arnold's just about to launch a six-night tour of Britain, a sort of pared down, almost acoustic version where it's him and just 6 or 7 band members doing. He's just going to be singing "Play Dead" and "You Know My Name" and some of his TV and film stuff.
I saw that. Yeah,
it starts this Sunday. Tickets are available, and he's going up and down the country. And if it works, maybe some more dates and other runs can be added. We are slightly in a quieter time. I always say it's the Bond, we're in a quieter time, but there'll be other stuff coming. Next year is the 60th anniversary of Goldfinger, which could be a thing. Let's see what happens. But I do think it's kind of when Bond started to run. So, and I think there'll be some things to commemorate and remember that, whilst hopefully looking forward.
That was the template almost, wasn't it? That's where it all got good defined. Something you said to me really resonated with me a second ago, and now my brain is losing it. We were talking about David Arnold and those things. That was one of the most exciting things in Road to a Million, like that special track by David Arnold. But wasn't that fun? So is he going to be playing just music from that's related, or is it his own? Because he's done a lot of work, hasn't he?
He's does a lot of good work. I haven't looked at the full playlist and what's promised, but I know he'll be doing Only Myself to Blame from Well There's Not Enough. You know My Name, which he does quite beautifully on guitar as a tribute to Cornell, who was a good close pal of his. I imagine there'll be some Sherlock music, Good Omens 1 and 2.
Oh yes.
He's when you look at oh my gosh, you've done quite a lot, David. You're quite good, aren't you? But he's never left the Bond world just because he didn't score the last couple of Bond films. He's still he did a great Bond-esque track for one of the NPL promos 2 or 3 Christmases ago, which was really slick, beautiful music. And I said, "You still got it. And I'm sure, my word's not his, but I'm sure if he was asked, he would jump at it. But he's also said he wants to do other things. None of us are getting any older, as I like to pretend. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he does. I'm really looking forward to it.
I think everything that you've talked to me is so interesting because you have perspective on it that most of us don't, which is you see the industry and why decisions are made that are led by the industry. It's like with David Arnold, for example, it's like a lot of the directors, I believe, wanted to work with composers that they were familiar with, and so they asked for that. So it wasn't like Barbara Broccoli had been like, oh no, we're not having David Arnold. It's like, no, we're having this director, he wants this, and therefore, and those are industry inside knowledge that explains everything to those of us who are sitting there shaking our fists because we're throwing our DB5s out of the pram because we're not getting what we want. And then you bring a perspective to that that's really interesting. I
remember talking to David, and he didn't tell me who, and he knew who was scoring No Time to Die, and he was good. He wouldn't say, or he heard a very solid rumor, and he was just excited that a friend was doing it. And that's it wasn't, oh why don't they pick me? He was just pleased that Zimmer was doing it, and Zimmer did a great job and used some of David's orchestrations and cues as well. I believe there's almost untouched Arnold music in there on some of the tracks. I'd love to see him do it again. I'd love to see. He's got loads of ideas still. We saw that with the Sound of Bond concert, Sound of 007 concert last year at the Albert Hall, which was a great, crazy night, and he curated that really well. He said it was like herding cats sometimes. So, you've got Lulu, Shirley Bassey. Imagine the rehearsal. But
Lulu.
He pulled in different people. I loved Lulu on that night. She was my favourite because I've only ever seen her on telly weirdly doing a mime version of the original track, and she did it live and it sounded amazing. I was like, oh my god, give her another Bond song. But yeah, David, he's got an eye. Not dissimilar to Barbara Broccoli. He's got a very clever eye about new musicians and new voices. When he pulled in Celeste to do Yellow twice, I went, because I'd love Celeste to do a Bond song. I went, and he's got some good ideas still. So who knows?
Now we're running out of time a bit, but I wanted to talk to you about something else with that, which is last year we had the community awards, and you won, of course.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes, I won the lottery grant. No, it wasn't a different community.
But no, I think that's one of the. You mentioned something about entitlement, and there's a certain amount of entitlement among fans and stuff like that. And it's so interesting to speak to you because you are like as you said, you were not a fan, you were like a voice, and you've got like years and years of solid background doing writing
years,
about
not
this.
Years. Just years, not years. Just years, yeah.
No. But how do you feel? Do you feel that there's a certain entitlement building up with people? I mean, what's the
entitlement's quite a harsh word, and I might have used it already. I think all the fever about what Bond's doing or what it's perceived to not be doing, and when guess what, folks, Bond fans or anyone, no film producer or franchise captain has ever once said on a red carpet about some other project, oh yeah, I must tell you who we've got in the new Indiana Jones film. Let me tell you now. That's not how it happens. So I always say at Eon House and beyond, the cogs never stop turning. They are a Bond factory's the wrong word, but they a Bond creative house, and
yeah,
they don't take their eye off those two white dots often. So I get when there's those gaps of nothing happening, people get impatience, and that impatience, when it manifests online, can come across by some people. It's generally not everyone. I've seen probably more positive feedback about Road to a Million than the negative. You know, people say it's fun, we can still do fun, and I went, yes, we can still do fun, and that's all it has to be, and that's all it ever was going to be. But when people get a bit annoyed and that fever hits that echo chamber online, and then people's fever or annoyance bounces off other people, I try and put a positive spin, and I think it's just it just underlines people's passion for Bond.
yeah,
And sometimes that passion can be misguided into perhaps less positive thoughts, but it does underline that the passion for Bond is still there. And right now they are deciding how to reignite and repurpose and refocus new passions from different audiences, because there's going to be Bond fans out there, there's going to be kids out there that will end up in 20 years time saying, yeah, my first Bond film was Skyfall or Quantum of Solace. And as I said in Catching Bullets way back, it doesn't matter what your entry point is when it came to Bond, it's just more important that you've had one.
yeah, absolutely. Gosh, I took a friend who'd never seen a Bond film before to Spectre, so I apologize for that. But what a wonderful perspective to have on that. I really like that, and I really like the whole idea of, like, yeah, the negativity comes from passion, and passion means that you're passionate about something. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And so, you know, maybe that negativity and passion comes from a place of love for what it is that we all enjoy.
There's plenty of other films and stuff out there. I often see people, oh, why Eon doing another film no one's going to watch? Well, did you watch it? You know, Till especially. Till was shown by Joe Biden, President Biden, at the White House earlier in the year, and whilst he was slightly lauding up the film, and rightly so, he said this was one of the most important screenings of any film at the White House. And Till, if people aren't so familiar, is a Eon production that takes in a very true, vicious, nasty beat in the race equality saga in the Deep South in America in the 50s and 60s. And Barbara Broccoli, it was a project of hers, and she nurtured it and helped others find their voice. And that's also what Barbara does a lot. She nurtures new voice, new talents, but so did her father. There's a reason that some big film school awards in California are named after Dana and Cubby Broccoli. It's because they did that as well, and so Barbara's taking that on as well.
And that film was stuck in development hell for 18 years, wasn't it? And she made it happen.
Yeah, and that wasn't the only one as well. The film Stars Don't Die Liverpool, which I love that film. That's kind of my favourite of the batch that Eon have brought out. It was based on a friend of Barbara's. And the story was always there, and she knew the original couple that the film's about. They sort of were social pals, I believe. So just there's other stuff out there as well. You know, I want a Bond film to be on a new one to be on Netflix every night, but also just watch other stuff. You know, watch other films by other Bond directors or other Bond writers. There's not a poverty of content out there. There might be a poverty of quality in a lot of what we have online, but there's a lot out there. So just embrace other stuff. That's what I say. But yeah, of course I want another Bond film.
Oh, well, that's now. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, so I'm going to have to wrap this up. Mark, thank you so much. What a wonderful conversation.
That was a good chat. Yeah, it was nice to chat and be a bit honest and candid as well, as best as I can.
No, I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate the authenticity that comes from it. So, before I go, if anybody who's watching this who is not familiar with you, where can they find out more?
Well, I'm on my website is marcoconnell.com, I think. Can't remember now, but yeah, www.marcoconnell, it's out there. Just put in Mark O'Connell Bond fan, and all roads lead to Bond, as I say. But I'm on Twitter. Facebook page is quite a healthy place as well. Catching Bullets, Memoirs of a Bond Fan. So yeah, I'm out there. Instagram as well. So I'm fine.
Yep, you've put yourself all over the place. How promiscuous.
Yes, yeah. I'm like Heracles. I get everywhere.
Well, that is wonderful. I'm going to wrap things up. Mark, thank you so much for chatting.
Worries.
I really appreciate it, and I am going to stop the recording now. I'm Roland Hume. I've sold 67,000 copies of my books. If you want to find out how I did it, I've got a link right here you can click. And otherwise, don't forget to subscribe. I've got more videos coming soon. Thank you.